We were talking about pressure. Now it's 98 days until the start of the NFL season. And Paulie said it to me yesterday. He goes, we're 99 days away. And I was thinking, all right, now's the time. Who has the most pressure? And then we started coming up with different levels, different tiers of most pressure, player, team, coach. Let's start there. Who has the most pressure going into this upcoming season?
Ooh, that is an interesting one. And I have been paying attention on social media and listening a little bit. I kind of agree, by the way, with what Paulie was saying earlier. I don't really think that the Giants, Joe Shane and Brian Dable, I don't think they have that much pressure. I don't think anybody really thinks that they're going to keep their job after this year. I mean, they have the hardest schedule in the NFL. I think they'll probably put Jackson Dart out there by week 8, Dan. I mean, it's funny when you really know the way the NFL works, which is that it's all about job preservation, right? You understand why teams operate the way they do. The Giants bring in Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. They're going to take a shot, and this is their first shot this year, to try to be good, try to be competitive, have Russell go out there. Maybe they can get to 500, and that's enough for another year. If it doesn't go well, midway through the year, you put in Jackson Dart. You hope that he shows enough or does enough that ownership wants to give you another year. It really is funny to me to see how many of these moves are made really with self-interest in mind. So that's a different kind of pressure, because I think that most people, myself included, I don't expect either one of those to work. I think that Shane and Dable probably will be gone this year. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Then there's a totally different pressure for like the Josh Allen, Sean McDermott combo or the Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh combo. Neither one of those quarterbacks are going anywhere, but, we do frame the conversation differently if they keep coming up short in the postseason for those guys. The interesting thing there, Dan, is if neither one of them makes it to the AFC Championship game this year, you'll wonder if at some point either Terry Pegula, the owner of the Bills, or Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, says, man, we got a really good team. We got a really good roster. We have one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe we just need to change something, because it feels like both those teams have kind of been banging their head against the wall the last 5 or 6 years, trying to get past the Chiefs, trying to get to the Super Bowl.
That's a lot there. I would say definitely Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. Harbaugh's career is similar to Mike Tomlin. When you look at, they always have a good product out there. Always over 500, it feels like, and they both have one Super Bowl. Would Mike Tomlin still have his job if he didn't have that one Super Bowl?
I don't think with many franchises, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are just so consistent and so stoked in trying to keep as much loyalty as they can. And I think, to be honest with you, I give them a lot of credit. It's funny because where I live, I know a lot of Steelers fans, Dan, and a lot of them are really down on Tomlin, right? They really do not like Tomlin. And I guess what I would say to them is, he's won a lot of football games. I heard you talking earlier, Dan, without really having a top half of the league quarterback. I mean, that is so hard to do. Now, what's interesting there is, how much power does he have over the personnel over the last few years? In other words, how much of that do you put right and directly on Mike Tomlin? I think that him winning that Super Bowl obviously helps quite a bit. The difference between the Ravens and the Steelers, as I know you know, Steelers haven't won a playoff game in a long time. However, the Steelers haven't had Lamar Jackson either. So you could actually have a really healthy debate and discussion as to which coach is better, I think, Tomlin or Harbaugh. I think both of them, if they were ever let go, there'd be a dozen teams that would look to hire them because they're considered top 10, if not top 5 coaches in the NFL.
We talked about the pressure on Trevor Lawrence. At some point, he has to show, are you one of the top 5, 7 quarterbacks? You're being paid that way. The pressure on Tua and Mike McDaniel in Miami, that this might be a make or break year for at least the coach. Which one has more pressure, Tua, the Dolphins, or Trevor Lawrence with Jacksonville?
So I think Trevor Lawrence has more pressure because this is now his third head coach, right? Whereas Tua, I think, has played pretty well. It's been more the injury issues and the concussions. But if the Dolphins have a down year, I think they fire McDaniel. And I think Tua is still the starting quarterback with a new head coach. If Trevor Lawrence really struggles, then you kind of wonder what Liam Cohen and Tony Baselli and Gladstone and the new regime starts to think. Now, I think Trevor just got a deal. They maybe both just got contracts before the 2024 season, if memory serves. Might have been 2023 for one of those guys. So they got money fairly recently. So it would be a little bit messy to move on. But I think out of those two players in particular, I think it's on Lawrence, and I think he gets a pass nationally way, way more than he should.
He's Ross Tucker with the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Also, you can hear him and see him on the NFL and college football with CBS Sports and Westwood One. Pressure on Justin Herbert, or do we look at it's Jim Harbaugh who has that pressure? Like, who has more pressure? If you're going to divvy it up with the quarterback and the coach with the Chargers?
I'm going to say it's 50-50. If anything, though, I would probably lean to Herbert because, again, this is a scenario where this is a second head coach for him. You know, Harbaugh kind of comes in, the Chargers were down, he leads them to the playoffs, and Harbaugh has a significant track record of success with the Niners, with Michigan, even going back to Stanford, right? Herbert, not as much. And in particular, there's a perception, right or wrong, that Herbert doesn't play his best when it matters the most. I almost felt bad for him in that playoff game against the Texans because I knew what was coming. And so I like to go into a year and look at which quarterbacks, man, it's more on them now. And I think Herbert's one of those guys. I think Caleb Williams, I know it's only year 2, Dan, but the Bears did something they've never done before, which is pay top dollar for a head coach. They redid the whole O-line, okay, interior offensive line in front of him. The first 2 picks, Colston Loveland with the 10th pick, Luther Burden with a top 10 second-round pick, are both skill guys. The Bears are doing everything possible to try to set up Caleb Williams for success. Now you got those quotes from the book with Wickersham, which will come out, you know, the day after the Bears' first game. I think there's a little bit of sneaky pressure on Williams because those quotes and that book have kind of put even more of a spotlight on him than there already was. And it feels like whenever you're one of these number 1 pick guys, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, whoever, people want to blame everybody else as long as they can, especially the fans, right? Like Jacksonville fans. It's almost like franchise quarterbacks, Dan. It's like a religion, and people want to hang on to that belief as long as they can. Jaguars fans want to believe in Trevor Lawrence until they absolutely can't. Bears fans want to believe in Caleb so badly. But with the microscope on him this year, if he struggles, I think that could be interesting as well.
I'm also wondering about, you know, the Niners were on the clock with a lot of pressure the last couple of years. You know, they do make it to a Super Bowl. You make it to, conference final. But I don't know if we're applying the pressure that was on them before. It's weird. We kind of moved on. Now it's the Lions. That it feels like there's more pressure on Detroit than it is San Francisco. Do you see it that way?
I understand why some people do. I don't think that should be the case at all. I mean, the Niners are coming off of a 6-11 season. If they have another down year, they have some serious questions to ask because their core isn't getting any younger, right? I mean, Trent Williams at left tackle, McCaffrey, we don't know if Christian will ever come back and be the guy he was. We know they've now locked up Purdy, but Kittle's not getting younger, and I wonder, I applaud organizations that show patience. And even after the Niners have a down year here or down year there, they recognize they have a good coach in Kyle Shanahan. 2 down years in a row, things get a little bit different then. Things get a little bit tighter. I don't think it's going to happen because I think they're going to be very good. They have the easiest schedule in the NFL. I think the Niners are actually going to bounce back in a major way. But if they don't, if they have another losing season, things will get very interesting there. There is some in Detroit, Dan, but and maybe because of the fact they lost both coordinators and there's this feeling that, man, this is their window to get over the hump. But I have a tough time picturing them making any major change in Detroit after this season, barring something totally unforeseen, because you have to remember, it's been a long time since we were even talking about there being pressure in Detroit because they're even good enough to have pressure.
I'll leave you with this, with the flag football, with the U.S. team. This has been suggested. Could we get an NFL team that goes against the best flag football team that's out there? And then the winner gets to go and represent the United States in flag football. I think it'd be must-see TV. If people are going to be shocked when they look at guys who are professional flag football players, just how different it is, how different they play than the NFL. But if you did, here's your NFL team, and I'm going to get the best flag football team, the winner represents the United States in the Olympics.
I think it's an incredible idea. I think I saw where, maybe my buddy Jason Kelsey was talking about that as well. I think the guys that have been playing flag football for years, I think they deserve that opportunity. I would watch that game. That would maybe be like the second flag football game I've ever watched, because I watched a couple years ago, if you remember. I can't remember what it was, but these full-time flag football guys, they played against former NFL guys. Like Seneca Wallace was the quarterback for the other team, for the former NFL, and they beat him, and they beat him bad. The current flag football guys beat the former NFL guys. That said, I don't know how much time the former NFL guys put into it. If you gave actual NFL players a month to really understand the game, the rules, because the rules are different. They're unique. I'm pretty confident that they would beat the flag football guys, but it still would be very entertaining to watch. And I think it's like a pros versus Joes thing, right? Everybody would kind of tune in to see how these guys would do against the guys they're used to seeing in the NFL.
Stephon Diggs didn't invite you on the yacht, did he?
No, I was not invited on the yacht. I will say this. I am open to any yacht invitations ever. I'm a big yacht guy. I just don't know enough people that have yachts or super yachts.
I think you're a boat guy. You're not a yacht guy.
I'm a pontoon boat guy with a cooler full of beer and just floating down the river. I don't need a yacht. What? Okay, let me ask them. Why would you pay hundreds of millions of dollars for a yacht when you can just go in the river or even a stream on like a kayak and have a cooler of beer there, and it's the same thing? You're in water, you're drinking beer either way. What's the difference?
The shorties don't like a kayak. I'm just going to be honest with you. But a pontoon, they might be interested in a floating living room there. But
pontoon boats are the party boats, man. They're awesome.
That's what I got. Yeah, that's what I got. All aboard. Hey, great to talk to you. Have a great weekend. Thank you as always.